change every 5 or 10,000 miles, and you.
Okay, thank you for joining the Department of Tourism, Hospitality, and Event Management's first ever Tourism Tuesday. This weekly speaker series will highlight nationwide industry professionals showcasing their background and expertise in hospitality, tourism, and leisure. So to kick off this series this semester, we welcome our first speaker, Laurie Hartwell from the Bridal Society. Laurie has almost 3 decades of experience in the wedding industry, teaching certification conferences, and has earned numerous wedding planning awards. So I will now turn over our session to Laurie to introduce herself and move on with the session. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you, Dr. Sisson. I really appreciate that. It's so good to see you today, and it's an honor to even have been asked to be here. So just to kind of give you a little bit more, like she said, I'm the founder and CEO of the Bridal Society. We are very proud to be the world's leading wedding planning certification program and the largest group and the largest membership of certified wedding planners as well as certified venue professionals. I am obsessed with my amazing membership. All of my CWPs are just so amazing, and they really just have a huge passion for the industry, and that's really what you're going to be needing to have in order to be incredibly successful. And for the longest time, and I was just talking to Dr. Sisson about this, for the longest time we did all of our certification courses in person, and just recently, back in March, we just had transferred everything online, and we were grateful that we did. What great timing, because then the pandemic hit. So we just felt like, wow, that could not have happened at a better time, because now we are able to still bring our amazing courses and certification programs to hospitality industry people, no matter where they live, and they can go at their own pace, and just works out fantastic. My very first time that I planned a wedding was back in 1993. So I have definitely been in the industry for a super long time, but I feel like it has kept me young because I have to be around young people all the time. So it's one of those things where you just are forced to stay as young at heart as you possibly can. Now, I want to talk to you today about the hospitality industry as a whole as it relates to weddings, and then I would like to focus a little bit on how the pandemic has affected events and weddings and things of that nature. I just feel like that's just something that everybody should definitely be aware of and know. So no matter where you decide to go in your career, whether, in the hospitality industry specifically, whether you are going to be working at a hotel or country club, or, in the F&B or the travel and tourism or recreation side of things, you're going to encounter weddings. That's just part of it. So it's really important that you know as much about weddings as you possibly can. Now, a lot of people think to themselves, well, how hard can weddings be? Well, hard. It's insane, actually. There are over 5,000 details to every single event. And so you're going to have to know exactly how to deal with those details, every single one of them. And you're going to need to really hone your skills in how to deal with your clients, how to deal with their family members, how to deal with their friends and guests, because everybody's coming at this with a completely different personality. So you really have to have a great understanding on how to deal with people, how to react to people, and in some of the most stressful situations possible. Because you're dealing with a situation, when it comes to a wedding, you're dealing with a situation that is a once in a lifetime, hopefully, situation. Most of the time when people do get married, that's their goal, is to only find that one person and it be, happily ever after for the rest of their lives. And so that in turn kind of creates this huge amount of pressure that this day has to be absolutely perfect. And so when they hire you as the wedding planner, they are expecting you to not only keep everything at a really fun and upbeat pace, but to make sure that you're remembering every single detail and acting as if they are your one and only client. And that, of course, can bring on a lot of pressure for you. But I would much rather take that pressure for, on me than have my clients experience that pressure. And so it's very, very important that you go into this career, if this is the type of career that you're looking for, with that type of drive and that type of passion. You really have to not consider yourself the most important person on the planet. You really need to see your clients as your number ones. Now, I want to make sure that you know, because I had mentioned that this is such a stressful job, I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that event and wedding planners are rated number 5 of the most stressful jobs in America, according to Forbes. I feel it in my gut, so I know that this is true. Just ask my ulcers, right? So it's just so crazy how stressful this job can actually be. But most of the time people think, oh, come on, you're picking out flowers, no, that would be amazing if all I had to do was pick out flowers. Woo. But you know what, if that were the truth, everybody would be a wedding planner. Now, a lot of people do try to get into the industry and then realize that it is so much more difficult than they had ever realized. And that's why you don't see too many stay in. Now, that's exactly why I started doing what I'm doing. So many people asked if I could mentor them, walk them through their career. And I did that on a one-on-one basis for the longest time. And then I realized I need to bring something a little bit bigger so I can touch more people at once and really help them. So now I'm a mentor to almost 6,000 people, 6,000 wedding planners. And it's the greatest joy of my life because I now get to pass the torch on after, planning weddings for 27 years. I'm now able to pass the torch on to others who really have the heart and passion for it. But just know that this is a very demanding job. So if you want to handle weddings, if this is something that you think you'd be super amazing at because you're organized and you're helpful and you love people, because you can't get into this job if you hate people. Like are you the kind of person that's just sitting around like, gosh, I hate people. Like if that's your thing, then this probably is not the industry for you, because all we have to do is love people. That is our main, source of energy. Like I get energy from loving other people. I get energy because I can see that I'm bringing happiness to our clients. And so you have to want that. You have to want to help as many people as possible in order to do well at this job. But it's so important that you know and have a really solid understanding of what goes into it. And that's why I really feel very strongly about education. Getting your degree, and then getting your certifications is so, so, so important. Because if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, it's going to be a very rude awakening. And you may say, oh gosh, I didn't realize it was going to be this. What I would rather do is prepare you. I would rather tell you all the crazy things that are going to happen so that you're 100% prepared, and then offer that support so that if you ever have questions or if you're going through a difficult day, and you will, that you have someone to support you in that. That is such an enormous part of this industry. Unfortunately, it's not offered in too many locations. The whole reason why the Bridal Society exists right now is because when I was a baby planner, when I was just 18 years old, I planned my first wedding when I was 18. I couldn't find an organization that was super supportive and would answer all of my questions and give me the education I had so desired. So I created it, about 15, 16 years into my career. I said, I'm just going to create it so that for new planners that are coming up, they are going to know exactly what they're getting themselves into, and they'll know exactly what to expect. And that is incredibly important. One of the things that I'm super proud of with the Bridal Society is that we don't charge monthly fees or annual fees. Your certification fees actually include lifetime free membership. So that's, again, something I couldn't find. So I figured I'll just make it. I'll create what I had always dreamt of when I was younger and then just make it happen. In your membership, for our members, it includes monthly workshops. For how much? No cost. Costs you nothing. It's because I believe so deeply in continuing education. We all need to be, really passionate about education, especially in the events industry. And the reason why is because our industry is ever changing. think about how often our trends are changing. It's yearly. And it's not just the trends that are changing, our client base is changing. Every few years, you're going to have a new type of couple that communicates in a way that the previous 5 years worth of couples that you had helped and serviced they're going to be talking in a completely different way. There are going to be different social media platforms. And even social media platforms right now, did you know that they are constantly changing the algorithms? It is so hard to keep up with. And that's why it's really important to have that continuing education so that you can constantly be staying up on what is going on in your current industry. We also offer discounts with our partners. We're partnered with Kleinfeld Bridal. We are partnered with The Knot and Wedding Wire and Aisle Planner and Timeline Genius and the Gay Wedding Institute and so many amazing humans that put together some fantastic companies. They all give my membership a discount. And of course, my favorite part is access to the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week forum. This is where I get teary because this is where I watch my thousands of wedding planners that are members of the Bridal Society. They talk and they share information. When they're booked, they're like, hey, I've got a couple there looking to get married on October 7th. Can anyone help them? They're in such and such area. And then they say, oh, I can do it. One of the big situations that I'm seeing all the time is, hey, something has come up. We had a really wonderful CWP and something very, very tragic happened in her life. And so she had a wedding that was coming up that month and there was no way she was going to be able to take it because of a health issue. And so many of our fellow members gathered around her and said, what can we do? We will take this on. Don't pay us a dime. We'll just help you. And they did. And that is the organization that I had always dreamt of. And I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. It's just, it's an organized, it's kind of just driven by my members. This organization is member driven and that's just what they were looking for. And it's just a big deal. So when you kind of go out and it's time for you to start looking for, that career, I want you to look for an organization that's going to be a really good fit for you. Look for an organization that is going to offer continuing education, whether it's free or not, whatever works best for you. And look for an organization that celebrates its members and does not allow that cattiness. That's kind of a big deal. And I know that you're all going to figure this out pretty quickly. Sometimes the hospitality industry can feel a little catty, almost like we went straight back to high school. I don't allow it. To me, it's unnecessary and unneeded. And I believe that we should be lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down. And I really want you to look for an organization in the events industry that focuses on that, because I feel like we can't thrive if we are so concentrated at pulling people down so that we can rise up. That's not how it's supposed to be. And so one of the things that I want you to be aware of is that we at the Bridal Society believe in community over competition, where competitors send business to competitors and talk each other up and help each other. And, hey, I've got this problem, I'm not really sure how to handle it. And then all of this advice just starts streaming through. That's beautiful as far as I'm concerned. So that's just some advice that I wanted to make sure that I gave to you so that you're looking for something out there because you need the support. It's a hard industry. You're going to need that. Find something that's going to be a perfect fit for you. Now I kind of want to focus a little bit on the state of the industry right now. Many of you are probably wondering, how has the pandemic affected events as a whole? Well, the short answer is a lot. I can barely even tell you. It has been a struggle. And it's been very difficult for me to watch my members go through all of these struggles. I would say in the very beginning of the pandemic that we were scared. I think that was probably the best way to describe it. Everybody was in panic mode. What do we do? How do we go about this? What should we be doing in the meantime? So the Bridal Society created a what should you be doing right now during the pandemic checklist. And I'll share that with you just a little bit later. And then I feel like it turned to, okay, now we need to have a game plan. And so we put together a checklist on how to postpone weddings properly. So what I had always advised all of my members is I'd much rather postpone the weddings rather than cancel the weddings. It's not good for anybody to cancel. It's not good for the couple. It's not good for the wedding professionals who were hired, who were depending on that money. You know, wedding professionals, most of the time, this is their full-time only job. And so when something like this, like a pandemic hits, it can completely throw everything upside down. And then they are thinking to themselves, how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to keep my business afloat? And so my company put an entire workshop together to talk about how you can actually stay afloat during this time period. So I gave a lot of, just little things that you could be doing. And that was really, really important. And one of the main things, if we want to keep this industry alive, and that's what we need to focus on right now, everybody. We have to focus on how in the world do we keep this industry, thriving. And it's, if we all get on the same page, meaning we have to remember Florida's doing something different than Iowa, and New York is doing something different than Maine, and California has a completely different view than New Mexico. We have to realize that every state's at a different phase of reopening. Well, what happens then is that means weddings are going to look different in every single one of these states. But the one thing that's staying consistent is, don't we want to keep everyone safe so that we can get back to normal as quickly as we possibly can? And so how does that work? What would that look like? In my opinion, it would mean that we need to make sure that we are all staying as safe as we possibly can. So the worst thing that can happen to our industry is that weddings get bad press. If they are now known as super spreaders, or an event for a corporate event is known as a super spreader, the problem here is that then everybody's going to be like, well, then I'm not going to weddings. I don't want to have weddings. I don't want to go to a corporate event, and it's all going to die. And if we all band together and say, listen, we're going to do whatever it takes to get back to normal as quickly as we possibly can, then that's what we should be doing. Whatever sacrifice we have to make as individuals, like wearing masks. Nobody likes to wear masks. I can't stand wearing masks. Can I go on record and just say I can't stand it? But boy, is it worth it if it means that our industry is going to be alive in a year or two. And so we need to make sure that we're all banding together and having some standards. And I put together a couple of graphics. So I want to share with you guys some really cool stuff. I want to talk to you about some different types of events that we're seeing right now during the pandemic, while we can stay safe the entire time. Then I also want to talk to you about some considerations that we all need to be thinking about at weddings so that we can stay as safe as we possibly can. And these are things that I'm telling my members that they should probably be recommending to their clients. And we've gotten together, the Bridal Society has gotten together with other big companies like Aisle Planner and Wedding Wire and The Knot, and we are all on the same page with this. We are all saying to everybody in the wedding industry, the sooner we get back to normal, the better. And we can't do that unless. And then that's why we put all of these things together so that we can all be on the same page. So let's go ahead and let me share with you the very first infographic. This is called 5 Options During COVID-19. In the first part of this here, it shows you like the wedding industry's been hit incredibly hard, right? So what type of events can we be putting together right now? The first one would be what's called a micro wedding. This is a ceremony only. This is not a ceremony and reception with a cocktail hour. Nope. This is a one little teeny tiny guy. It's a micro wedding, it's very small. And what we suggest here is to make sure that you're listening to the CDC guidelines based on your state or your county that talk about how many people can gather together safely. So guests can be physically distant when they come. Everybody would be required to wear a mask, and this event can be live streamed for those who can't be in attendance. And there are a lot of really great live streaming companies out there, and even a lot of DJs offer that ability. So if you hire a DJ for a micro wedding, they would probably go ahead and put together a package that would include this event being live streamed so that grandma and grandpa who can't make it can still see the entire event. It's a lot of fun. The second one here, this is called a mini wedding. So it's, again, a small, very cute ceremony with some formal pictures afterwards, followed by what we call the mini reception. Nothing like what we've been seeing up until now, obviously not that kind of reception where there's a huge party, but this reception can be the formal introduction, the first dance of the couple, cake cutting, and then the grand exit. So notice I didn't say dinner. Notice I didn't say let's have some drinks. That's not what I said. This would be an in and out situation. So it's a little bit longer than our micro wedding. Our mini wedding would probably last about 30 to 45 minutes longer. So now let's talk about the mini wedding plus. Okay, so this is just a little bit different than the mini wedding. You're just adding a little bit extra. Now, we should definitely, in order to stay incredibly safe, if this were done outside, this would be ideal. It would be much more safe to do something outside than inside. So you have that teeny tiny micro ceremony with the formal pictures afterwards, followed by a mini reception, which would include a formal intro, the first dance, cake cutting, and then maybe some outdoor lawn games. So what types of lawn games? I mean, my goodness, you guys, you could do anything. You can have croquet, you can have lawn darts, you can do cornhole. There's a million things you can do, but make it outside, make it fun. You can almost make it like a carnival style. And then afterwards, you could do the grand exit. Now, this would be a much safer bet than our standard wedding receptions, because wedding receptions is where everybody is basically just thrown into a room with no social distancing at all, by the way, and it's inside, so it's even more problematic. We need to make sure that we are only offering options to our clients that really encourage safety. Now, here's the next one here. It's called a multi-celebration event. So you can do your micro or mini ceremony now. So whatever their date originally was, let's say they were getting married this Saturday. The cool thing about this is if we just do the ceremony on Saturday, we can do the reception the way that it was originally planned for 1 year then, from the actual wedding day. And that, think about how special that would be. So on our 1 year anniversary, we're going to celebrate and have a really fun, big, huge reception. That can actually get your clients super excited, because now they don't just have one day to look forward to, which is their ceremony. Now they have 2 events that they get to look forward to. And this can be super incredible. And the cool thing about this situation is if we wait to celebrate on a 1 year anniversary, it's always going to be 1 day after. So let me tell you what I mean. If this Saturday is their wedding, a year from this Saturday, their wedding date is actually going to fall on a Sunday. So that means you can still take a Saturday wedding if need be. And see, that's where a lot of the struggle came in with many, many wedding planners and wedding venues, is there were so many postponements to a Saturday into 2021 that they were afraid that they would be losing out on a ton of revenue because now they're not booking new clients. And we in the industry have to think about those things. So if we handle the multi-celebration type of event that you see on your screen under number 4 in the way that I'm describing, where we would be celebrating on the same day the next year, which would follow, if our wedding this year's on a Saturday, that means our anniversary will be on a Sunday the following year. That would really take care of the situation. So now we can handle this year's wedding couple next year, but also take new revenue and take new weddings for the following year. So I just feel like it's a much better way of handling things. Now, Your other option, the fifth option here, is just a full postponement. This is where a client would say, listen, I don't want to have a physically distant wedding ceremony. I don't want to only have a mini wedding or a mini plus wedding. I want to have the big wedding that I have been dreaming of since I was a very young tyke. So if that's the case, then we just need to have a full postponement. We have to make sure that we are considering our clients' feelings when it comes to that. I can give you just a really quick example of what I mean here. My nephew was supposed to get married on May 2nd of this year. So in late March, when we got the CDC guidelines that said we do not recommend having anybody, have gatherings for more than 50 people, I went to them and told them this because they were expecting 120. I said, how do you feel? What are you envisioning? And they said, well, let's postpone it. So they postponed it to October 2nd. Now they were going to be getting married down in your area, which would be near the Gainesville area. And they just were super, super excited about October 2nd. And then what happened? The pandemic did not let up. In fact, Florida's numbers were starting to rise, and they were afraid of having their grandparents there that are immune compromised, and they didn't want to have the wedding with masks and being physically distant. That's not what they were envisioning. That did not work out for them. And so they've decided to do the micro wedding right now, and then do the big reception a year from now with a little vow renewal. So that's going to be a really fun thing as well. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that there are going to be people that just say, listen, there's just no way I want to sacrifice the vision I had always had. And that's fine, but we also need to make sure that these clients are understanding and fair, that we can't necessarily give them a Saturday of the following year. We have to make sure that they are being flexible. So we're suggesting to them doing Friday weddings or Sunday weddings, or maybe even give them a huge discount by offering weddings Monday through Thursday. So there's a lot that you can do. Now, I definitely want to share with you another infographic that I feel would be very, very helpful for you. And it's just about considerations that once you're at an event, what you should be thinking about and maybe sharing with your clients. So this is 7 event considerations. First one, don't have large gatherings. We want to stay as safe as possible, right? So the more people that are at a gathering, the longer that interaction lasts, the higher that risk of becoming infected could be. And we need to make sure that we're staying as safe as possible. So have smaller gatherings if you guys are choosing to do events right now. The second one would be food and beverage. We don't recommend having food and beverage right now. I'd rather see smaller events where you're kind of in and then you're out, because you can't wear a mask when you're eating or drinking. I've tried it. You can't do it. I've seen some of those really funny memes though, where there's like a little hole in the mask so that you can put a straw through. I've seen it, cute, adorable, not ideal for weddings, but whatever. But I think that it's really important that we have to make these small sacrifices right now, not forever, just right now when the numbers are just so high. Now, physical distancing, you need to. And I don't like the term physical distancing, you guys. I mean, you've heard of social distancing. That's why you've heard me say physical distancing. I love being social. We're being social right now. I don't want you guys to discount what's happening here. I want you to realize that we can be social, but when it comes to being physically together, we definitely need to be 6 feet apart. So you've got to ensure that you don't put too many people into one space. So if the wedding is still going to be inside, we need to think about how many people we can fit into that space, right? That's kind of important. So, we're saying anywhere between 36 and 50 square feet per person. Before it was 12 square feet per person. Now we're saying 36 to 50 square feet per person, because it's not just physically distanced from my front to your front. People at weddings don't get chained down to the ground. They walk around, they move. And so we have to keep that into consideration. We have to take that into consideration. So if you have, let's say a 3,000 square foot ballroom, then you would be able to fit about 60 to 83 people in there. So that's a massively different amount than what we were going to be able to do pre-pandemic. Now, another thing would be those face coverings. It's just important. You should definitely, anytime you're going to be out with others, whether it's outside or indoors, if it's at an event where there's gatherings of people, then you've got to wear face masks. You've got to do something to keep yourself safe so that our industry can survive. Another thing that is really huge right now, all of my rental companies have sanitation stations now. Every single one of them, there's not one that doesn't. And so we recommend that you would have a sanitation station at every single doorway that people are going to be entering and exiting. And you guys, that includes the bathrooms. Now, I'm not saying that you can't trust people to wash your hands, but what I'm saying is you can't trust people to wash their hands. And so if you have a sanitation station at the outside of that door, and maybe even with an attendant, then you know that they're washing their hands and they're staying safe. Now, the next one here on the list is, family and friends. Now, if the couple chooses to have food and beverage, even though we've said, probably not the best idea, some people are going to say, I want what I want when I want it. That's the beauty of having clients and us being rated number 5 of the most stressful jobs in America, is because we are kind of at their mercy. We hope that they listen to us and go with our guidance, but they are not always going to do so. So if they say, listen, we still want to do all of this, I've got a couple of suggestions here. When it comes to seating, it was back pre-pandemic, we would be able to fit 8 people at a 60-inch round or 10 people at a 72-inch round. Now, the problem here is we can't do that anymore. The reason is because in order to do that, we would have to put multiple families and people from multiple households at one table. Well, that is no longer safe. So we have to make sure that if a couple is coming to this wedding and we're going to be having an indoor event where we are going to be serving food, then what we would do is want to put them at a 30-inch round so it only fits and holds 2 people. That way they're not sitting with people that are not from their household, and we are trying to mitigate this risk as much as we possibly can. So for 30-inch rounds for couples, 48-inch rounds for families of 4, 60-inch rounds for families of 5 to 8. And you can kind of go up from there. It's just important that you are only putting people from a household at a table and not mixing that. Now the final consideration here is, and this is a hard one for weddings because we're always hugging and we're always shaking hands with people. That's just what we do. So it's just important to maybe have cute little signs up. You can have your wedding couple have I always suggest that they have a wedding website. And on the wedding website, it can talk a little bit about how, gosh, we want to hug you. We want to shake your hands, I promise. But unfortunately right now, because we want to keep you safe, we can't do that. And some of our couples have come up with like cute little hand signals. Like if they do this, it means I'm hugging you. Kisses, whatever it may be, but they can put a little video together that kind of shows that, and super, super cute. So those were the 7 considerations of how we can stay safe during this pandemic. It's changed everything. I wish that it hasn't, but it has, and we have to adapt. That's part of being in the wedding industry, you guys, is learning how to adapt in strange and odd circumstances. And even in normal circumstances, we have to adapt. If I go back to 1993, when I first started planning weddings, I can tell you that my life looks very different than it does now. Meaning, I didn't have a cell phone. Okay, I had the cell phone, but it was that big, huge white cell phone. We called it the brick. You had to lift it with 2 hands and talk. It was insane, but it's not something that you'd carry around with you at a wedding, right? We didn't have Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat. We had none of this. There was no Pinterest. We had nothing. And honestly, you guys, we barely even had websites back then. So, I'm just trying to give you a little bit of an insight as to things change. And as the internet started really building and growing, we had to adapt and learn how to utilize that and figure out ways to use that for business. The ways that my clients would speak and communicate changed because I was dealing with baby boomers and Gen X, and we were just learning how to handle that. Now we're dealing with, our Gen Zs are coming up. And so that's a totally different style of communication. So we've always had to adapt. I even remember when photographers first came, when the digital photography came out, that was like, when was that? Like in the late 90s, that it was everything was turning like to digital photographs. And there were some photographers who said, this is ridiculous. We're film only. We're never going to adjust over to that. I'm sure that this is going to be just a phase. Well, it wasn't just a phase. And those photographers who did not adapt and who did not evolve in their own industry, they went out of business. And that's what we need to avoid right now. You need to make sure that you are mastering your evolution in the wedding industry. And you just need to make sure that you can adapt to ever-changing scenarios. And this has definitely been a baptism by fire, to be quite honest with you, with this pandemic, because all of us, in order to survive in business, we had to learn how to adapt, and we had to do it quickly. And so that's what I would suggest, is figure out a way that we can all get on the same page. We can all adapt so that we can learn new ways, learn new things, and then keep each other afloat. And that is just incredibly important. And so one of the things that I did was I put together a little checklist for my members so that they were able to take that downtime, because all of those weddings were postponed, right? I wanted them to take that downtime and figure out how they can actually do some improvements in their business and become as effective with your time as possible. So the very first one was thinking about their rebranding. You guys, being a wedding planner, it's not a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job. We work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. And then sometimes we have Sunday events. And so we get lucky if there's like a 4-hour window where we're like, whoa, I can rest. So I want you to understand that we've been going at this for so many years, go, go, go every single day. And then the pandemic hit and we all went whoosh. And they were like looking around going, guys, what do we do with all this time? And I was saying to my members, this would be the perfect time to really just look at that branding that you haven't had time to in so many years because you've been so busy. So do some rebranding, work on your website, get it perfect, really make those adjustments, rework your packages and your pricing. And gosh, that in and of itself is a lot. And create those packages for your micro weddings, your mini weddings, your mini wedding pluses, your multi-celebration events. You've got to create packages for the new style of weddings that are going to be happening right now. Reaching out to wedding professionals and venues and saying, listen, can you reach out to your clients and let them know that I'm going to hold a free Zoom Q&A and answer questions. But that's a great way to get in front of those people's current clients that might say, you know what, I should probably hire a certified wedding planner. That is a good idea. I also say, reach out to venues, see how you can help them. Do they need anything? The more you say, can I help you? The more people are going to see that your heart is always in the right place. And I find that when your heart's always in the right place, all good things come back. I'm just a huge believer in that. I also, was telling my planners, why don't you organize a really fun online wedding showcase? I don't really like to call them bridal shows. I like wedding expos or wedding showcases because I think that actually says more about it. Offering virtual services. A lot of my members decided to offer couples who did not already have a certified wedding planner hired, that they would say, you're going to need some help throughout your postponement, but I'm willing to do that just virtually and just in consultation form. There's so much that you guys can do. I suggested to update their office policies and making sure their contracts are more up to date. Our contracts changed as soon as this pandemic hit because we had to protect ourselves from these types of situations. Another thing would be to raise your education. So all of these people that were getting this were already certified. They're my members, so they were already certified wedding planners. But we also have master certified wedding courses. It's an advanced study program. I'm like, up your game now, like make it happen. Getting those certifications while you have time, that's ideal. And then be a positive role model. Find a way that you can impact somebody's life in the most incredible way possible. ask yourself what you can be doing for your community. This is a big deal. That's part of us being in the hospitality industry, is the fact that we are supposed to be hospitable. And so I want you to ask yourself every single day, how am I hospitable? What am I doing for my community today, tomorrow, next week? Plan these things out and give back. And always be ethical and full of integrity. You guys, there's too many negative ninnies out there. There are too many people that think you have to be shady in order to succeed. I do not believe this nonsense. In fact, I believe that if you are not ethical and you do not have integrity, you will not make it, not in this industry anyway. People are going to be able to figure out that you're not a good person. So you've got to make sure that you have the right heart for this job. And if you don't, this may not be the right job for you. And I would highly recommend that this is, that you go and you look for something that truly would be perfect for you. But you've got to remember, the industry is tough. I get it, but it's beautiful and wonderful and magical at the exact same time. And you would think after almost 30 years, I'd be tired of it. I'm not. It's the trends change. Everything kind of keeps you on your toes all the time. And I just love making sure that I give to as many people as possible. So, I'm happy to answer any of your questions and, do whatever. You can put those in the chat, or if you would like to chat with me over the microphone, I'm sure Dr. Sisson's got you, and she can definitely handle all of that as well. And by the way, we are also going to be putting a link into the chat so that you have access to all of those downloads that, all of the screenshots that I was showing you today, all of those documents you can download. Cost you, let me think, nothing, absolutely nothing. We want to make sure that you have whatever it is that you need to be as successful as you possibly can. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Dr. Sisson, I'm going to, send it back over to you.
Great, Laurie, thank you so much for all of your information. You have so much energy. I can't even believe it. Thanks. And you're so busy all the time. I'm sure that you've not even had any time during this quarantine to just relax.
No, that's adorable. No, there's no time. I'm going all the time. And, once I retire, which will be like 20 years from now, possibly, I'll be 45 this month. I'm thinking that, in 20 years, I'll have plenty of time to rest then. So.
Good. Well, I want to open it up to the floor. If you have any questions, 2 reasons. You can, if you don't feel comfortable speaking in the Zoom session, you can chat. Just post your question in the group chat, and I will read it for you. But if you do want to raise a question, I encourage you to turn on your video, because I do want to see you and miss you guys. So turn on your video and make sure to unmute yourself. So I'll open up the floor to anybody who's willing to ask a question.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Daisha, and I'm in Dr. Sisson's class for Convention Sales and Service. My question, hi. My question's kind of general, but truly and honestly, like Dr. Sisson said, Professor Sisson, your passion just really radiates. And I just want to know, in a time like this, how do you stay so positive, especially when so many people look to you for advice and information? How do you, keep them going? Because I feel like a lot of professionals in the industry, this is a time where they're kind of feeling damper and down. So what advice do you have?
Wow, that's such a great question. And thank you for asking, and thanks for being brave enough to ask that. That's so awesome. So I have a couple of belief systems. I believe that if I allow the negativity, and of course we have down days, right? I've had my days, Daisha, where I'm like, okay, I just need to have a moment, because you're right. Everybody's, I've got 6,000 people saying, Laurie, what do I do? What do I do? And I so desperately want to help. The thing is, the way I stay positive during situations like this is I know that it's not going to last forever. I know that there's a lot at the end of the tunnel. Our industry is going to come back like you would not believe. And I'm so excited about it. I can barely stand it. I also believe that I owe it to my industry to stay positive and to come up with solutions. I feel like that's my calling. That's what I owe my industry, because I feel like my industry has given me so much. And so whatever I can do to maybe brighten someone's day, put a smile on someone's face. And sometimes, Daisha, to be honest with you, even when I'm feeling like a little heavy, and I'm sure you have felt heavy before based on whatever, whenever I try to change my perspective, I find that I'm actually training myself to cheer myself up and to find a new way of thinking about it. I believe attitude is everything in life. And when we put a great attitude out there, we typically get it back tenfold. And so it just sort of works organically the way I hoped it would. But I feel like I owe it to my members. I owe it to my industry to be just as positive as possible and to be a solution-based person rather than a problem-based person. I hope that answers your question. Did it? Okay, good. Okay.
We do have a question in the chat. So it says, first of all, I wanted to say how cool I think it is that you guys have already put into place safe alternatives to traditional weddings in light of the pandemic, specifically the multi-celebration option, and the fact that you guys have ideas for wedding planners to do during this time. They're wondering around how many weddings or clients the traditional wedding planner at the Bridal Society handles in a typical year.
That is an awesome question. Oh yeah, and by the way, thanks for the really wonderful, sweet words. That's awesome. So pre-pandemic, what I would usually recommend to wedding planners is to take between 24 and 30 weddings per year. A couple things that I want to make sure that you're remembering is there are 52 weeks in a year, and there's no way that you should, and well, I'll say that in a minute. There's no way that one person should take a wedding every single weekend, because you won't stay sane. And you deserve time. You deserve a weekend. You deserve to go to the spa or to go golfing or to just sleep. People deserve this. Now, this is something that I've had to learn over the course of my career. I'm going to be super transparent with you guys right now. When I first started planning weddings, I told you I'm 45 now. I started planning weddings when I was 18, and I went gangbusters, like just whoosh. I took 42 weddings my very first year. And that was a mistake. And then what I did was I decided another really bad, horrible decision. One of the bad decisions I said is I want to become the biggest, baddest wedding planner in America. And I want to have a wedding planner in every state. So that's what I did. We were one of the largest wedding planning firms in the country. That was really stupid. Because it stole my life from me. Now, I'm also a control freak. I feel like people should know that. Now, typically wedding planners and event planners are control freaks. I prefer to call us control enthusiasts, but you can call us whatever you want. But because I'm a bit controlling with my business, I made sure every single wedding planner would forward every single email that ever came into them to me. I wanted a copy of every email that went out to their clients, because I wanted to make sure that they were staying in line with my core values. And it's hard when you are hiring people all over the place. You don't know if they're representing your company beautifully. And so it caused me way more stress. So I don't do that. So I feel like it's incredibly important to limit how much you take on. Now, I had answered your question between 24 and 32 weddings a year. There's a whole nother side to that. So I'm going to dive deeper into that answer that I just gave. It will depend on what package your clients have chosen to go with you. So for instance, your month of, those are for people that aren't really in the wedding industry. You've heard of a day of coordinator. Well, there's no such thing as a day of coordinator, because that would imply that I can read people's minds and I know exactly what they want. I can just show up on the wedding day and magically make it happen. But there is such thing as a month of coordinator. It's the same job, it's just called something different. And so, if you're only going to have a ton of month of, coordination packages being sold versus a full service planning where you are just with them every single step of the way, if you have more of those, you should take less on the 24 a year. If you have a lot more month ofs and they don't require too much hand holding, you can take the 30 to 32. but so there is something in between there, right? So if you have a mixture, then you need to take between 24 and 32 weddings that year. So I just want to make sure that you guys are staying on that too, that there's so many facets to weddings and things that you have to consider.
I have a question.
Oh, never mind.
Go ahead.
I don't know if everybody here is already in the wedding industry, but I'm not, and I'm in my last year in sport management major, and I've decided to take the event management class because I was still a little lost in what to do. And just this week, the first week of class, reading the book and watching the lectures, I've seen a lot about event management, and it kind of interested me that this might be more of a career to me than the 4 year of sport management that I did. So I wanted to ask if you have any tips or the best ways to enter this career if you never thought about it up until the last 4 months of school.
So Dr. Sisson, is this one for you, do you think?
For both of you or any of you, whoever wants to answer.
Well, go ahead, Dr. Sisson. I think this is probably more something you would be able to help with that.
Sure. So I think, and also we have another lecturer on the line as well. Mr. Grommel is on, who also has a lot of industry. And
Apple files counterclaims against Epic and is seeking damages and disgorgement of earnings.
My recommendation is, like, at this time, if you're within
seeks a permanent injunction against continued
within your education that you're in so far and within your sport management degree, you can take your education and offer some kind of combination between the two. If you're really interested in events and the event industry, and you're starting to think of, well, this is starting to spark a different interest, you can always look into pairing the two together. So if you think of sport management and the sports industry and the events industry and tie them together, there are so many similarities within the two that you'll start to find that there's so much overlap within career options. For example, if you look at the sports industry as more of live entertainment or, like live functions, then you can start to think of the events industry in the same way. Events industry is basically live entertainment. It's people getting together for a live function or gathering for social events. And it's some sort of form of entertainment either way. You're either being entertained or people are entertaining you. So in that regard, because you are so far into your education, I would begin to look at ways in which they can overlap. And with the two, you're in a good position in which they're pretty much hand in hand. Now, I can speak individually with you about how we can look into career options and how we can mesh the two together. But I would say that you're not in a position where you're like chemistry and events, okay? You're in a really, really good position and in which we can tie the two together. So I would recommend like coming to talk to me individually, so I won't spend too much time of Laurie's expertise on this call, but we can work together and figuring out a way that the two can mesh. But if Laurie wants to chime in at all, she can.
I'm good. I think you answered it so perfectly. There's nothing more I would have added to that.
Yeah, just start thinking about it as live entertainment.
I had like a sustainability question because you said you've been in it for a while and we talk a lot about sustainability in all our classes and stuff. So how much have you seen it change? And like in weddings, it's not necessarily the most prioritized thing to be sustainable, but is there stuff that you guys push so that way it's not like, oh, we're just going to throw out like piles and piles of flowers, or what are things that you guys have implemented over the years that you've seen?
Yeah, so a lot of people do ask me about that sustainability when it comes to weddings. And, one thing that has always kind of stuck with me is that there will always be weddings. This is what we've noticed, you know, even through this pandemic, our business has not slowed down. All my wedding planners are just incredibly busy. It's just now the weddings are looking a little bit different and they still need someone like us. Now, I remember back in 2000 and I believe it was 8, when just the market, everything, you know, we went into a depression, everything was just very sad, but so we have some really amazing friends. Most of our friends work at hotels. I mean, one of the things you'll get used to in the hospitality industry is all of your best friends are people that you work with week after week after week. Like, we don't like make other friends because we don't have a life. And I mean that in the most loving and kind way. But one of our really amazing friends, he is a huge manager for one of the big resorts over by us. And he said, when all of the corporate events stopped, one thing kept on, and it was weddings. They said the weddings are actually what carried them through getting that revenue and staying afloat. And so that was really interesting to me. And I don't know if it actually hit me until he actually explained it like that. And I believe that no matter what scenario, you know, hits us as an industry, I mean, a pandemic, you guys, a global pandemic just hit, and weddings are still happening every weekend. That's fascinating to me. And so I feel like, you know, in order to sustain success and to be in business consistently, it is up to the individual. It's how much drive do you have? How creative can you get with your business and your mind and the way that you're going to wrap yourself around the situation that you find yourself in? And once you can master that, once you promise yourself that you're not going to let anything hold you back, that you're going to think past it and through it, you can do just about anything. Let me give you I'm going to give you a 2-minute little example of what I mean by that. It's all going to be about positivity. My husband, in April 26, 2018, was diagnosed with stage 3B colon cancer. And it was the worst day of our lives. And I remember that day, you know, after the big cry happened, he and I just stared at each other and then busted out laughing. And he goes, "Laurie, listen to me. I see past this already. This is not going to be something that puts me down." And this man went through 4 surgeries, chemotherapy, everything just hit him, right? And he is the most positive, most amazing guy. And let me tell you, that's how I see everything through that lens. Everything is through that lens. Is how can I see positive? How can I see past whatever situation is trying to hold us back? You have to get past it and see past it and feel past it. And you have to just embrace the situation as a whole. Now, as far as sustainability, when it comes to flowers and you know, those types of items, yeah, you can repurpose flowers, but we've been doing that for years. We've been putting, you know, if the weddings come, you know, let's say at the end of the wedding, sometimes all of the guests get to take the centerpieces home. It kind of depends on the centerpiece because some of them are way too fancy to do that. But in other situations, we've given them to nursing homes. We have donated them to hospitals. We've been doing things like that. There's a lot of companies out there that will actually take those. They'll come at the end of the night, take them, and then donate them, disperse them. And I think that's wonderful and beautiful too. You got to think about invitations, you know, as far as sustainability when it comes to wedding invites. People sometimes don't want to waste paper, right? There's another side of things. So you can kind of go green. You can use real beautiful papers that can be biodegradable. There's a million things that you can do with weddings that would promote sustainability. So to me, there's sustainability and success in business, and then you can look at even deeper into each facet of the wedding industry and actually see ways that you can actually reuse, repurpose. There's so many things that you can do.
I think we have another question in the chat. Do you have a set organization system, or does it change on the wedding? And if so, how do you actually keep organized?
So the best way for me, and that's a great question, and I'm so grateful that that you asked. So there are programs. I really encourage cloud-based software to really help wedding planners stay organized, because some of these software programs are so amazing that they actually allow you to collaborate with all of the wedding professionals. They can see every facet that you open up and allow them to see. And I feel like that helps everybody stay incredibly organized. Again, it's the learning and the adapting and learning new software, and it's all about that. But you really definitely want to make sure that you have a hard copy. You want to make sure that you have a copy of all of the contracts on your computer, but then also utilize iCloud software to where you can actually collaborate and talk to wedding professionals. So we use IO Planner, Timeline Genius. Those are my two favorites. And it is just incredible, absolutely incredible. And they give all of my members discounts because of our relationship with them.
Hi, I have a question about the I know wedding involves a lot of job, like a lot of communication with part A, and for the jobs that has a direct contact with the customers, especially in the hospitality industry. I'm sorry. Is there any specific knowledge that could like greatly support our jobs? For example, like psychology, something like that.
So I'm not sure if I understood that exactly right. Are you? Can you help me a little bit more, kind of explaining of where?
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry about that.
You're okay. I just want to make sure
English barrier. Sorry. Like I was wondering, like for the jobs that has direct contact with the customers.
Yeah.
With a lot of communications. Is there any specific knowledge except for the major courses we take now that the specific knowledge that could support our career?
That is a great question. I think, taking communication classes at college is huge because I just don't feel like people communicate the way that they should anymore. I feel like everybody is just so quick. But when you're talking directly to your customers, a couple of things that you're going to want to remember and would be making sure that you have a full understanding of how you communicate, understanding your communication style, and then knowing how to talk to someone else who has a completely different communication style than you. I feel like that is a really, really important thing. And the Bridal Society actually teaches classes. We have continuing education just on communication all by itself, because it's so big when you're dealing directly with the clients and the couples, right? It's such a big thing. You need to make sure that you are communicating properly. You need to make sure that you know what to say, when to say it, and why you're even saying it. And that goes to exactly what we teach in the Bridal Society. We have that in our regular certification course. We have continuing education, and then we also have detailed information in the master's class too. So there's so much that you can learn, but you've got to make sure that you are that you have a really good sense of who you are first and foremost. Okay. And there's, as far as job placements and things of that nature, of making sure that you have maybe you want to work under somebody for a little while. We also do job opportunities through our organization as well. And that, again, you need to find someone that has the same personality style and communication style that you do, because it really does help that entire situation. Did that help you? Did I answer your question the way you were hoping?
I think so. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome.
I also had a question. I was just wondering, how did you know that wedding industry was right for you? Like, I'm a third year, specializing in event management, but I'm not really sure what industry I'm interested in, but I think weddings are interesting, but I'm just not really sure how to figure that out.
Well, it's a hard thing to figure out. And that's a great question. I'm so glad that you asked. For me specifically, I knew from a very young age that this was something I had a huge passion for. I was the girl in high school that everybody came to that said, hey, we want to plan this party. Let's talk to Laurie. Like, that was always the way it was. And back in my day, way back when I graduated from high school, that people got married right out of high school. So all of my friends were like, hey, Laurie, plan our wedding. And I'm like, I could do a business. I could, make this into a business. I was born an entrepreneur. And so, I knew that it was going to be something I was amazingly fascinated with. And I wanted to just make it so wonderful, but I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. I didn't realize how tricky it was. See, what's so interesting is that all of us in the hospitality industry, when we're thinking about maybe opening our own business or whatever, we're not thinking like, oh, I've always dreamt of being in sales. Like, no one has ever said that. I don't think anybody's ever dreamt of that. We got into the industry because we love people, we love love, we love events, we love just we're people pleasers, right? That's what we do. But part of what makes the job so hard is you have to learn how to sell. And when you own your own business or you work for someone else, you have to sit down and convince couples to hire you. And that is incredibly intimidating. That's why I spent so much time training people on how to get that done, because we did not go into this thinking I'm an amazing salesperson. So you really have to make sure that you do that well. So I just always knew, but some people go through our certification course, learn all of it, and some of them say, yeah, that's not for me. And some of them go through our certification course and go, I didn't know this was for me until I took this course, and oh my gosh, this is it. And so you never know. So my advice to you, my sweet friend, would be try things out, learn as much as you can, dive into all the education that you can get your hands on, get those certifications, learn it, and then experience them. And once you figure things out, you're going to know exactly the path you're supposed to be on, because you're going to feel it down to the core of your bones. You'll know, I promise you, you'll know, because you either hate weddings or you're going to love them once you try them. It's just, there's no in between.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Well, Laurie, we are past our time, so I want to wrap up real quick. Is there any information on where we can contact you, how we can get a hold of you, any information last week you want to share with us?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, if you guys want a little bit more information on my organization, the Bridal Society, you can go to thebridalsociety.com. All the information's there, everything that you could possibly need. And don't forget to click that link that we put at the top of the chat if you'd like some free downloads. Because I think it's always great to have some free downloads, anything that can kind of help you and walk you through this experience. But if you do want to talk to my staff, or you have any specific questions, you can email them at info@thebridalsociety.com. Go to the website, thebridalsociety.com. We're happy to answer any questions you have. And we hope to be able to welcome you into our family of certified wedding planners, because that's essentially exactly what it feels like. Yep. But thank you for having me today. I really appreciated that.
Laurie, thank you so much. You are an amazing speaker, and you have such a background and expertise, especially in wedding planning. Thank you again for joining us in our very first ever Tourism Tuesday. And hopefully we will see you again soon. And when the weather slows and it actually becomes nice down here, hopefully, and the pandemic slows down, we'll have you in here in person.
I would do it in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Thanks so much, you guys. It was good seeing you. Good luck in your futures.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you again.
Thank you.